How's it going, everybody? This is Dave Meltzer. We're going to be here for the next 2 hours talking pro wrestling with myself and Brian Alvarez. We may or may not have Jim Neidhart up in half an hour. I guess we'll find out at that time. So if not, but we certainly have a ton of emails, and always, of course, we'll be taking your phone calls as well at 1-877-392-3299, talking about pro wrestling. Brian, how are you today?
I'm doing pretty good.
Did you get done early?
I did not. Got done about
Neither did I. 2:30.
I found out one important thing. I can do work on the newsletter anytime during the day, but as far as the actual writing and editing part of it, I cannot do it before like 9 o'clock at night. I just can't. I can't concentrate because the sun's out and, birds are chirping or whatever. But, after 9 o'clock, I can go to like 2 in the morning just writing and everything, but before that, I'm just useless.
I had that, I'm trying to figure out why it took me so long. Why would I was like totally done except for, basically the SmackDown.
That's what I was at too.
And I got I got all the SmackDown stuff real early, so that was like no problem. And what was I don't even know what I was doing last night.
Lucha?
I kept You know what? I kept just going over the Johnny Valentine story because it was one of those, it was like one of those things where
I was going to say rearranging like the furniture.
No, I just don't know.
Remember the furniture that you had that was made out of wrestling tapes?
You know what? One thing that I did last night, actually, that was there were a couple of roller derby skaters that died. In fact, someone sent it to me. It's actually in the Observer a little bit. So I went through to look some of their stuff up, and it started scaring me because every time I look at I've got this guy, as many of you know, was in a class with my sister-in-law, and as a present, found out, was a long-time subscriber, like for 10 or 15 years. And just said, he gave me this thing it was over Christmas, and it was like every issue of Roller Derby Illustrated. So I got it in this closet, and I go, I'm going to look up a little bit on some of these guys. And every time I do that and start looking up 1972 Roller Derby, it's like 1998, 1999 pro wrestling. These two warring companies, businesses through the roof. And then 2 years later, 1 year later, one of them was gone, which is where we're at now.
Uh-oh.
And then another year and a half later, the other one was gone, which is what I'm scared to death of is going to happen now, although there are no signs. And then you read the
SmackDown spoilers and you felt even worse.
Well, no, actually, I woke up and I saw the heat rating. Oh my God.
That's
anyway,
right.
We'll talk about SmackDown in just a second. Real quick, but the Raw number did a 4.98, which is slightly down from the week before, and that's basically the same number they were doing opposed a month ago.
Mm-hmm.
Main event was a 5.62, which was the Undertaker Austin 47-second match or 57-second match. China Trish Stratus did well, although that was the same. They did a lot of stuff with Undertaker and Triple H and Austin and Kane and everything in that same quarter. And McMahon Family Interview did all right, but much lower than the McMahon Family Interview has been doing. Heat did a 1.08, and I could be wrong about this, but I do not recall Heat ever doing any number even remotely that low. I remember, I think I remember like a 1.4, some months ago, but not a 1.08. And it's like, it's not like they were going against the Super Bowl, which actually they may have done a 1.08 against the Super Bowl. But it's like, does anyone have an explanation? And please don't tell me because those of you on the West Coast wouldn't watch it because it went head-to-head with the pay-per-view, which is actually true, except for the fact that that situation has been every fourth week on Heat since the beginning of Heat. So there's always been that excuse. And I remember when Heat used to drop from a 2.8 to a 2.6, on the week of the pay-per-view, which actually made sense because you would drop, you are going to lose about a tenth to 0.2 of a point, because of losing the West Coast. But that's not an explanation for a 1.1 rating. Livewire did an 09 Super.
I don't know if this has anything to do with it, but, I had the whole deal about I'm going to watch Heat from now on because there's no WCW and it's something fun to do on a Sunday night. It's only an hour. But after last week's show, I decided, why watch it? There's no point to it, and I didn't watch it this week.
Well, it's your fault.
Not that my house was responsible for a full point, but...
Well, no, he's been doing like one in the 1.6, 1.7 range. I think he did a 1.7 the week before. So, anyway, that's what's going on there. We'll talk about SmackDown from last night. Real quick, let's see. Randy Orton actually gets a TV match on Heat. So, for those of you who've never seen him, he does a job for Billy Gunn, but they do give him mic time. He cuts a promo on Billy Gunn, and then Billy Gunn beats him. Then they also do, let's see,
wow.
Taka Michinoku beat Crash Holly when Funaki helped out. Steve Blackman beat Perry Saturn.
Crash still drunk?
No, he was sober. And, boy, that was bad, too. And then the APA beat Albert and Just Incredible. Okay, so Raw starts, and Undertaker comes out, and he now has a chain. And he's really upset because Steve Austin destroyed his bike. After Raw went off the air, they show a clip of that. And Undertaker said that he's going to get revenge. They announced that Kane has suffered a broken arm, which is going to heal really quick because I don't know if he's going to be wrestling Sunday in England. I don't know one way or the other, but the plan is for him to be wrestling on the pay-per-view against Triple H, which is, 2.5 weeks away? So he's going to...
Is that early?
Yeah, they're doing 3 weeks. So it's going to be tough. Plus, they already gave the main event away.
Isn't it?
The 20th.
Or 20th, yeah.
Yeah, pay-per-view's the 20th. Plus, it's Austin and Undertaker, which we just saw on Raw, and they didn't give us a good match. That doesn't... You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, if I don't know. And then they also announced...
Benoit Angle in a ladder match?
Has that been announced? Or
no, but I was just thinking about it. What do you do with these medals? Maybe just hang them above the ring, but, what are Benoit and Angle going to do in a ladder match?
We just did a ladder match with Benoit and Jericho, which was a hell of a match. In fact, one of the best matches of the whole year, but that's coming back with it pretty quick. Plus, they did tables, ladders, and chairs. They did ladders at WrestleMania, too. I mean, what are we going to do? Like, it's going to be like the Russo days where you got to have a cage every week. We can't do a match without a ladder.
That's right.
Anyway, Undertaker mentions in his interview that he set fire and his brother's face ended up being burned. So imagine what he would do to someone he doesn't like, which is interesting because he didn't mention that he also killed his parents in that same fire.
That's right.
Oh, my God. By the way...
They really dug themselves into a hole with that angle.
Yeah. So anyway, Vince McMahon ends up... The big thing is there's the big surprise. He's got a big surprise for Undertaker. There's a new guy coming in, big mystery guy, and just spoil everyone's fun. And it ends up being Rikishi of all people, which, I guess, what the hell. Triple H beat Jeff Hardy with a pedigree.
He's all about helping those young guys, He really is.
Yeah, what's so good about that one is, like, I could just imagine, like, at the thing, it's like, I think that some people might have thought that win I had over Jeff Hardy was a fluke, so I think we better do it again. So even though Austin's at ringside, Undertaker comes out there and starts pounding on Austin, and there's all this distraction. He beats him with a pedigree anyway. So then they go back, and it's Undertaker and Austin are brawling back there. Actually, Austin jumps Undertaker in backstage, but Undertaker makes a comeback and throws Austin through a plate glass window, which, am I correct that we just saw the plate glass window at WrestleMania with Raven?
I believe we did, yes.
I remember Raven going through it. There's so many shows. It was the big show in Kane. So it was the WrestleMania match. So, anyway, Austin, even though Raven was fine and probably worked, 4 more minutes of the match and then wrestled the next night, Steve Austin was blinded because the glass got in his eye and he had to be taken to the hospital. But anyway, before we get to the hospital, let's see. Raven beat X-Pac and then the whole X Factor group jumped him and beat him up, which probably means we had to listen to the music twice. Then they go in there, they take Austin on a stretcher, they put him in an ambulance, and who is driving the ambulance but The Undertaker? I thought you
could say Steve Austin was driving the ambulance. He attacked himself.
Yeah. So anyway, Triple H is in the ambulance, Undertaker's beating up Triple H, he's beating up Austin again, and then the security, I guess, gets rid of him. So anyway, let's see, Deborah comes in.
Is Undertaker in the back seat of the ambulance, or is he driving?
He's driving, but he goes through,
Now, how the hell does that work?
I don't know. Well, watch it on SmackDown tomorrow night. So Vince and Stephanie tell Deborah what happened to her husband, and boy, is she mad. She goes to Undertaker's dressing room, and Undertaker explains that this is like men's business or something like that.
Undertaker tells her to get in the truck.
Quit spilling coffee on me. And right. So she slaps Undertaker in the face, and that's that. Then Hardcore Holly pins Kurt Angle with a schoolboy because Chris Benoit's on the apron with the 2 medals. Hey, I'm just reading it, Then Vince and Undertaker do an interview. Or Vince does an interview. Undertaker comes out. Undertaker decks Vince McMahon. They're trying to... Listen, they got 3 weeks to get this guy over for the main event. And I will give them credit. They are really working hard to get Undertaker over as a babyface to where, people want to buy this pay-per-view. And they didn't even get the buy rate of the last one. And again, I don't know. Maybe the last one did better than the Heat. The Heat number doesn't bode well for that pay-per-view, but that's not always a direct correlation either. Anyway, he stalks Stephanie, but just tells her that tell Daddy when he wakes up that the Undertaker has taken back his yard, whatever that means. Then they are in the hospital. Jonathan Coachman's in the hospital. By the way, wasn't that a great line about, what did Regal say to him at the pay-per-view about go back to covering, was it frog races or something?
I can't remember what he said.
Something in Kansas City. I thought that was pretty humorous. But anyway, he's at the hospital, and Triple H comes out and explains that his eye
Have some pride.
Yeah. That there's pus coming out and blood everywhere, and that he may never see again. He may be blinded. And people are going is Russo writing this stuff again? Here you go. Midway through the show, the guy's blinded. By the end of the show, he's already doing a run-in.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like he's out of action for 3 weeks or anything. So anyway, Edge, Christian,
Surprised
Ryan.
it wasn't Hunter doing that deal there. You had Kane with a broken arm. He's going to be out till the pay-per-view. This blind guy is back at the end of the show.
Yeah. Matt Hardy and Chris Jericho beat Edge, Christian, and Rhino when Eddie Guerrero got on the apron, and Eddie Guerrero and Edge got into it, and Matt Hardy gave Edge the twist of fate. So, does that mean
They're breaking those two up?
What, Edge and Christian?
Mm-hmm.
That's what it looked like on Monday. God, that's
so
sad. That's so sad. Why when you have a successful tag? Because they did it with the New Age Outlaws, and then both of those guys were never the same.
Yeah. And it was so clear just looking at the crowd reaction in fact, the angle they did with Kurt Angle when he comes in and asks where his medals are, and Christian just goes, I don't know, and Edge goes, I don't even care. And everyone popped big, so it's like, okay, Edge is going to be the baby face. Poor Christian's just going to be floundering as a small heel in the WWF, which is, it's a recipe for failure right there. Sad.
What's too bad? I told you, he's not that small.
Well, I mean, just compared to the other guys.
Yeah, no, I know. I mean, what's funny was meeting, he was a lot bigger than I expected meeting him. So.
He's like 6 feet and, what is he, 6 feet?
I'd say every bit of 6'1".
Mm-hmm.
He's more than 6 feet. He was, how tall, he's probably an inch and a half taller than Dreamer. What's Dreamer legit? Dreamer's not 6'2".
No, I didn't mean Dreamer. I meant.
Dreamer is not 6'2".
No, Dreamer's about 6 feet.
Okay, so I'd say Christian's probably 6'1", maybe 6'1.5". Edge is probably 6'3.5", maybe.
Yeah, that sounds right. That sounds about
Okay.
right. No,
I was there. So
well, I'm 6 feet tall, and Tommy and I kind of sized up, pretty close.
So you're gonna fight him?
No, never. But no, Edge was.
You can't fight him because he was too good of a guest.
No.
Besides, he'd kick your ass.
That's true. But Edge and Christian were both we're both slightly taller than me, so I would have to say, 6. Let's see.
Well, Edge is several inches taller than Christian.
Yeah, so I'd say Edge is about 6'4".
Yeah.
Close.
Okay. 6'3.5", I'm guessing. Yeah. 6'4", maybe. Christian 6'1.5", maybe. Okay. There we go. There we've got it. Okay. Now someone's gonna, what they're gonna do? Someone's gonna send some WF trading card that says Christian 6'4" or something.
Edge is 8 feet.
Anyway. Where were we? Okay. Jerry Lynn beat Grandmaster Sexay using the ropes for leverage to retain the light heavyweight title. So Jerry Lynn is they're doing this heel thing, and I think it's gonna get him over as a babyface the way they're doing it. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, then Stone Cold is back in the building. In the locker room with his eye bandaged, saying that he mentions that Triple H has been arrested for other than, I guess, for causing hell in the hospital. So Triple H isn't back, Austin is back. I guess that's to explain why Triple H and Austin are both not attacking Undertaker in the show. So Undertaker's wrestling Rikishi. Austin comes out with a chair, tries to do a run-in. Somehow he doesn't work. Undertaker gets the chair, hits Rikishi. Austin runs away, and that's basically the show with no finish. So that's the scoop.
He couldn't even pin Rikishi.
Well, that's his first match back. I guess they didn't want to do it. Yeah, I know.
This is the guy that's supposed to be getting a world title shot.
In 3 weeks. Yes. Well, you're right. Couldn't even pin Rikishi. No reason not to. I mean, you're right. I mean, no reason not to. Let's check out the poll here for Raw. 6% excellent, 9% good, 29% average, 33% bad, 23% awful, which is probably about the worst. I thought that even though the first part, I'd say the first half hour, 45 minutes of Raw was pretty decent. In fact, the first part of Raw was pretty good. That might have been the weakest Raw show of the year.
Yeah, it went way downhill.
Because I was thinking if there had been a Nitro head-to-head, you know how whenever we do the poll with Raw and Nitro, and almost every week Raw would win, this would have been the week where Nitro would have beaten Raw on Monday. Unless it was one of those really bad Nitros. This is our question for today. What are your thoughts about a relaunched WCW? A, it'll be a big success and be kept separate from WWF. B is it will have some success. They'll blend in 6 months to a year. C, it will have little impact and they'll quickly do the angle. That means they'll try it and kind of give up on it. Yeah, kind of give up on it. D is it will have no impact. They'll do the angle, but the angle won't work either. And then E is it will have no impact and they won't even try the angle. So that's the scoop.
You were stretching
there.
for 5 there, weren't you?
What?
Were you stretching
not
for
really.
5?
Not at all. Not at all. The one that they won't try the angle? It's possible. People talked about it, that they just try this thing, and it fails so bad they don't even, I guess they could always do the promotion versus promotion angle in the mid-card, which would basically be they are doing the angle, but it really doesn't count. Because if it's not a main event angle, then what's the point?
Okay.
Not that what's the point, but if it's not a main event angle, then that's going to be very disappointing. Any other news before we start hitting emails?
I think that's it.
Okay. This is from Jay Arbitman, who says, no one in the 60s and 70s talked about killing anybody? I think not. Ox Baker and his Hard Punch. Well, you're right. I was talking about when I was growing up, Ox Baker never wrestled San Francisco, although he did wrestle Los Angeles. And Ox Baker did in Los Angeles talk about killing people. Ox Baker, the thing with Ox Baker was, Ox Baker was in the ring in 72, and I think 71. It was really weird. He was in a tag match. And Alberto Torres in Omaha suffered a heart attack and died. And then he wrestled Ray Gunkel, who was actually the co-owner of the Georgia Territory, which actually led to a major promotional war. Very famous situation in Georgia. But Ray Gunkel died in in the locker room. He suffered a heart attack about 15, 20 minutes after a match with Ox Baker. So in wrestling terminology, Ox Baker killed 7 men. I mean, I remember when he came to Los Angeles, Ox Baker, the man who's killed 7 men. And he would talk about killing people, so you're right. And I remember when Ox Baker came to L.A. and talked about killing people, I thought, this is way too far. It's like they crossed the line, because San Francisco, man, talk about broken legs, but never broken necks, and, you know what I mean? That was like the limit was broken legs, which they always talked about. Mm-hmm. It's John who goes, do you think that Test has been kept down by Triple H in the same manner Jericho has? Boy, oh boy, oh boy. That Monday was pretty confusing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If anyone is close to Triple H's look, it's Test. It's funny thing is like Test isn't even in Triple H's level, but there's no reason to keep him not in his level. I don't know. Test had a hell of a match on SmackDown many weeks back now with Kurt Angle. And I know that people wanted to elevate him from there, and it's like they sort of did on the pay-per-view, and then they just destroyed it the very next night. It was so, I swear, it's so WCW-like. When I was writing the Observer last night, I kept thinking, this is the stuff that I used to write about WCW, where they would do something with a babyface, give him a little bit of push, and then hit him over the head with a hammer to kill him. I was thinking Test might as well be the tall guy in the Filthy Animals. Yeah. He goes, I think Test could be great in the ring and on the stick if they just let him get in the mix. Hey, we'll never know unless you get the chance. He's certainly not bad. It's from Brian, who says, I value you and your opinion and the guys from the Law's opinion, but I think Rob Van Dam could do a lot for the ratings for WCW. Rob Van Dam won't make a difference in the ratings one way or the other, although I would like him in WCW. I think he could be a star there, but Rob Van Dam didn't make a difference in the ratings in ECW. There's only a few guys who in and of themselves really make a difference in ratings. I can't even say Austin. At one point, obviously, Austin did. At one point, Sable did. I think The Rock does. Vince McMahon does. I don't think there's any question about that. Flair, certainly at times did, absolutely, and Bill Goldberg at times did, but I think it ends there. maybe there might be one guy I'm missing, but it's more the quality of the whole show overall rather than, one guy being there or not being there.
Just a product in general.
Yeah. Okay. Put in the ring with the right people, and he can get huge pops from the crowd and make people tune in.
So can Sid. Get huge pops from the crowd? Doesn't mean people
get huge
tune
pops
in.
from the crowd. He won't make people tune in. Yeah. I would suggest, that they put him there, but, it's like not having him or having him. It's the overall product that's either going to, make that thing or not make that thing. And Van Damme himself isn't strong enough to be the difference maker. Although, he has potential to be a big star. Can we go through a couple of emails before we start taking phone calls after the break? This is a semantic question that's a little bit meaningless. But anyway, we'll do it anyway. Do you not think a more accurate... do you think the term independent is meaningless? Do you not think a more accurate distinction would be regional, national, and international? The term independent doesn't mean anything. What makes a company such as XPW or UPW any more independent than WWF? With the distinction of regional, national, and international, it would remove the conjecture over whether or not ECW was an independent in the 90s. Who the hell cares? Or whether XPW is an independent now. Okay? Obviously, XPW is an independent, but there are those who will argue otherwise.
Why does it matter?
I know.
They get funding from the government?
However, if they were called a regional, nobody would be able to debate this label. How about a singular? They run one building once a month. That doesn't make you a regional. A regional means that you run a region, not like one building, okay? This would also give ECW a distinction from WWF or WCW because ECW could be a national.
Well, why do they call the WWF a federation?
I don't know. And why do they call it wrestling? Vince McMahon, remember that they always said, we're not wrestling?
Yeah.
And then they said, but the reason they don't want to take wrestling out is they can't figure out another thing for that initial, because that brand name. The only reason it's WWF is World Wrestling Federation. The term wrestling is in the brand is because it's so established as a brand because they don't want to even be wrestling. So anyway, that's another story. I don't
know if he's so much on that kick anymore. That seemed to be something that Russo was trying to get into his ear because, when Russo was there, it was totally sports entertainment. You never even heard the word wrestling. Now that Russo's gone, the word wrestling has come back, so I don't think Vince is so against it anymore.
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah, and then when Russo went to WCW, they started calling everybody sports entertainers, remember?
Yep.
That was so stupid. Anyway, look, there's The Rock, the world-famous sports entertainer. Anyway, where were we? Let's see. A promotion like ECW would be classified as national, whereas the big two would have been international. ECW ran Canada, so that makes them international. I think they only ran once or twice, but still. And they ran in Japan. So that's real international. It was only... Well, anyway.
It must be a real world title.
Yeah, I guess so. This is from someone who goes, Dave. This is from Dave who goes, I vaguely remember seeing a tag team match in Stampede where Chris Benoit and Dynamite Kid were in it. I don't remember if they were on the same team or not, but I do have a memory of this. Am I crazy? Yeah, Dynamite Kid was the booker in Stampede in the late 80s, and Chris Benoit was working the territory, and I remember I know that they tag teamed, and I know that Dynamite Kid did a retirement angle, although he did not retire, and gave Chris Benoit his boots, and I think later he turned on Chris Benoit, and I think they probably had matches, although I'm kind of vague on that. I remember Dynamite Kid came in and had some hellacious matches, and this was long after Dynamite Kid's prime was over with Owen Hart at that period. This is from Lee Mavers, who goes, do you think part of the reason that Rob Van Dam has not received major attention from the major companies is because of his marijuana use? Well, I will answer that with no. It has nothing to do with it, because if it did, there would be
a lot of guys out of work.
There'd be a lot of guys out of work right now. That's right. There's certainly others in wrestling who use drugs on a regular basis, but you don't see them in magazines.
Although he is pretty open about it, and he has done those interviews for High Times.
Yeah, that's true. You don't see them in magazines proclaiming it like Rob did. It certainly wouldn't be good PR for the WWF to have a publicly admitted drug user as one of their top wrestlers. Well, that campaign... He won't
be doing those interviews anymore once he comes in.
No, he won't. Also, I don't think he wants to do them anymore anyway. It was one of those things. I think that Paul Heyman liked that because it made it seem like a cool rebel promotion.
Extreme.
Yeah, exactly. But he ain't gonna. Yeah, I don't think he's gonna be doing them anymore. Also, when did the trend of wrestlers getting their heat back after losing a match by immediately attacking their opponents become a popular booking decision in wrestling? I remember it in the late 70s and early 80s was when I first started seeing it. In the early 70s, I never saw it, but I think it depended on the territory. Because I remember in the AWA, they used to put the heels over and the babyface would clean house afterwards, and this happened match after match. And I used to get so annoyed at it because it was if you're going to put somebody over, put them over. And if, you know what I mean? And it's kind of like it makes you, it's kind of like wishy-washy and then guys don't get over. When in the 70s, in the early 70s, I started watching, when a guy got over, I mean, it's like he won and he moved up the card and the guy who lost, well, but
it's just so funny because it's like people always talk about, wins and losses don't matter. I don't care about wins or losses, this or that. And then you'll hear, am I going to get my heat back after this? It's like, what do you need your heat back for if this wins and losses doesn't matter?
Yeah, and you ever notice that, like, the guys that have the most booking power, wins and losses matter to them?
Exactly, yep.
I know. Anyway, it seems like nobody can win a match without quickly getting hit by a chair, getting put through a table, or getting beaten up. You know what it is? It's what happens
wins and
when
losses do matter. You know that? They really do.
Yeah, but you know what else it is? It's as far as like getting heat back and everything. What it is it's trend of bookers to not rock the boat. And what happens is like, okay, here, wrestler A, X-Pac. I'll just say X-Pac since they never do this.
That's a good example, actually.
Okay, X-Pac, you're going to have to lose to Raven with a DDT. And it's like, well, how do I get my heat back? Well, you can beat him up after the match. And that way he's happy, Raven's happy, everyone's happy, as opposed to anyone actually being elevated by winning and losing and have the wins and losses mean something. It's just a way to keep it's easy. It's much easier on morale. It's much easier on bookers to do that. So, let's see. How much do you and Brian spend on pay-per-view shows every month? I know I spend more than Brian because he's watching it with friends, right?
That's right. $5 a show.
Okay, I spend, whatever it costs. I watch every show. I pay for every show. We got Jim Neidhart on the line right now. Jim, how you doing?
Good. Who's this?
Dave Meltzer. We're Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez.
Yes. How are you?
Doing really good.
I think the last time I saw you, Dave, was you were in the lobby in the Kyo Plaza in Japan maybe 10, 15 years ago.
No. We've seen each other since we were at World Wrestling Peace Festival, remember?
Oh, okay.
Remember when you just got back from wrestling Dan Severn and you were saying like how he was, I was pretty hard and I go, well, maybe you thought you were Abbott?
Yeah.
Because you had the goatee and everything like Tank Abbott?
Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah. Jim, what have you been up to, what have you been up to of late?
As of late? Well, let's see, last year I was with the World Wrestling Federation, and they moved me down to Memphis, Tennessee, and as a consultant and as a wrestler and all kinds of odd jobs. And after the Owen Hart thing had came to an end, all ties with the family and everything just went kaput. So that's about it.
Yeah, what are your thoughts looking back? Your career from the end of 1997 on, you've been kind of a political, you're
a pawn.
You're like a political pawn in this family thing. With WWF and with WCW, it's kind of like, you went to WCW because of what, ultimately what happened to Brett, and then you were with WWF ultimately because of what happened to Owen in many ways, don't you think?
Well, we had that big run with the Hart Foundation for a while, and then the whole group of the Hart Foundation, Davey Boy and Owen and Pillman and myself, they wanted me to fill in the groups, so that left me a reason to come in. So that was going just fine and dandy. Then, let me see what happened. Brett got in a big fight with Vince and punched him out. I had to be right there. I went down, down to the ring in the Molson Center, and then looking after Brett a little bit. It looked like it was going to get real nasty. Looked like the fans were going to riot. And so Brett and Davey and Owen left, and I didn't have a contract. So I stayed there with the WWF after that Molson fight. And all of a sudden, I started getting a little push. They were probably going to really use me. And then the WCW offered me some good change, real good change, more money than I've ever made in my career. So what do? You go where the money's at. And then went down to WCW. They didn't use me and Davey Boy right. They didn't want to, cling on to the Hart Foundation thing or anything like that. And that's about that. Davey had a hard time showing up in his matches.
Yeah. How's
back injury?
Have Have you been any? Are you even in contact with Davey anymore, or not at all?
I haven't seen him. We're all live up here in Calgary. I haven't seen him in quite a while. So lately, I've heard he's back in England.
Is he really?
I just got back from England myself. I was on a tour up there with Hammerlock Wrestling.
How'd that go?
Very successful. I was shocked. I was shocked at the response I had.
Mm.
They're showing a lot of.
They do the classics on the TV. Yeah, the 1986 wrestling's on WWF. I mean, on England television now.
Yeah. So people like to come see like to come see people they've seen before, know who they're seeing.
How's the quality of the guys there?
Not bad, actually. Not bad. There was a guy named Finn, who I had never met before. I think he was with the WCW.
Yeah, Chris Champion.
Probably raced a long time ago.
Yeah, he was Yoshi Kwan and Chris Champion.
Yeah. And then there was myself and there's a couple of English boys. Pretty good talent.
Any real standouts?
Pardon me?
Yeah.
Any real standouts up there?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand you.
It's like any standouts of the English guys?
Oh. Yeah, there was one real good standout. God, if I remember his name right now. There was a couple of guys. They wrestle real hard style there. And then they practice it. They shoe wrestle every Sunday. And they work real hard. There was one standout there, and I just can't remember his name right now. And they sent a couple of guys over there to Japan to do the no rules fights and stuff like that, where they tap out and stuff.
It was like maybe Gary Steele. Did you see Gary Steele? Is you see who that guy? I think he is.
Yeah, Gary Steele.
Yeah, because I've seen him in Japan a couple times.
He's an excellent prospect.
Mm-hmm.
Really good attitudes and everything,
When you were down in Memphis, what did you think of some of the guys that they had there, the WWF guys?
Well, Steve Regal was down there rehabilitating from similar problems that he had, due to medical problems and things like that. And, who else was there? K Crush.
Mm-hmm. K Crush, yeah.
Yeah. And I work with him quite a bit. And, it really kind of pisses me off because out of the 6 or 8 guys I had to work with there, half of them made it.
Mm-hmm.
I'd literally go over their apartment and drag them out of there and say, because they were sick and complaining and I was working too hard and this and that. And then Bruce Pritchard calls me and says, you're not a Marine sergeant, you got to treat these guys with kid gloves. I said, oh, shit, Vince McMahon never treated us with kid gloves.
Yeah.
I want to do the same thing, So anyway, they're all a pretty good bunch. I see they had that girl named Bobcat.
She never made it there for
No, she had a couple of tryouts. And then Blue Meanie was there, and he lost a lot of weight.
Yeah.
So he lost a lot of weight. And then I guess he went on to live with that girl who was a pornography star in ECW.
Yeah.
Who was pretty and everything, and then they had that guy, a little white guy.
Reckless Youth?
Yeah. And he had a really good attitude. He could do just about anything. And for some reason, I don't know what they didn't like him. Maybe not big enough or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But very talented and good attitude. And then Jerry Lawler and his wife,
Kitty, Miss Cat, the cat.
Cat were there.
Yeah.
And they come in and on the big TV shows we did at the casino, they come in and do their thing.
Going back to a totally different era. When you first broke in with Stampede, I mean, now your background, a lot of people, I'm sure most people don't know this. You were a high school shot put record holder here in California.
I was national champion.
Yeah, and one of the top shot putters in the world at one point.
Yeah.
And were you at UCLA when you're doing
I went
track?
to UCLA on a track and field scholarship.
Yeah.
And my coach Tom Telez there, and he coached he coached Kerry Von Erich to be national champion also. A little bit of trivia there.
Yeah, and the Kerry did the discus. Yeah.
Yeah, Kerry was NC2A champion or something like that. He coached him, and poor Kerry, dear friend of mine.
Mm-hmm.
Davis, Wills, Ackworth, Georgia. Address,
Mm-hmm.
David A. Wills, 4307.
But anyway, so now when you were you there with Terry Albritton at the same time?
Yes, Terry's a good friend of mine. How did you ever hear about Terry Albritton?
You told me.
Oh, okay.
You told me that you with Terry Albritton was like a collegiate champion. Now, did you go to Calgary with him or not with him? Because
I went up by myself.
Okay.
$10 in my pocket and took a Greyhound up there to see Stu.
Mm-hmm.
And
where did this did you hit like a wrestling bug, or like what exactly happened to lead you to pro wrestling and lead you to Calgary with no money in your pocket?
I was with the Dallas Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
And I had no college experience, and Terry Albritton, the Cowboys wanted him bad.
Mm-hmm.
So
did he play any college football, or was he just a shot putter also?
He was a national champion at the same high school I went to in Newport Beach, California.
Mm-hmm.
So here he was highly recruited there, and he's 6'4", perfect height, weight, everything. And so he went to Stanford, and I went to UCLA. And we both got fed up with the system, and we said, why don't we just go to the University of Hawaii, an independent school, and shot put together there and see if we can break a world record. So he did. He broke the world record 3 times in a row over there, and I floundered at around 66 feet. I just didn't get one off, but we were training awfully hard. So we decided we had enough of the island. And so Terry went back to Stanford, and I went back to UCLA and to finish our careers. And all of a sudden, the Dallas Cowboys wanted to sign Albritton. And he says, well, listen, I haven't got a car or anything. Can I invite my friend Jim Neidhart with me to the Cowboy camp? So the Cowboys called me up and said, you want to play for us? I said, yeah, sure, So I am Stanford. Terry Albritton lasted 2 days. I lasted 5 months.
No. Did you play in high school or just not college? Or
I was high school American football.
Okay, so you just did stuff. Okay, yeah, because I'm just thinking it's pretty hard if you've never played football to go to a pro camp.
Yeah, especially breaking in the Super Bowl lineup.
Yeah, exactly.
But I had high school skills, which and the weight coach here at the Cowboys knew me. Bob Ward knew me from before at Fullerton Junior College, and they knew me in my shopping. I was way stronger than anybody. I had Randy White in front of me and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
They were pretty much walking over me, but I was so short, they couldn't see me. And I had all this low to the ground strength, and damn near made the team. So here I was on down in San Diego, and after this whole thing went down, and this guy named Malin, the strength coach of the Chargers, says, hey, why don't you got $1 million in your body in wrestling? I said, what? I said, I don't know about that. And he said, this guy named Malin sent me to see a guy named Leo Garibaldi.
Okay, I remember that name.
And, so I watched him down there in San Diego, and I saw Roddy Piper wrestle, and Moondog Maine, the night he died down there. And and anyway, so they sent me out to people in Los Angeles at the Olympic Auditorium. And so Gene LaBelle goes, what you want to see? You want to see Al Tomko or Stu Hart? Learn how to wrestle.
Al Tomko.
You had not gotten the name of the Anvil yet, right?
No.
Or had you got that? Yeah. So you went up to Calgary. I guess you were someone in Los Angeles. Gene LaBelle told you to go up. So is there any reason why you
Gene
picked?
LaBelle used to run the Olympic Auditorium there.
Sure.
That was a while ago, though.
Yeah, no. So now they threw these names Al Tomko and Stu Hart at you. Did you know who Stu Hart was at this point, or no?
I had no idea who anybody was.
Okay. So you didn't know.
Did you ask people about Al Tomko?
What's that?
Did you ask people about Al Tomko, or how did you make the decision to go to Stu?
Well, I talked to Stu. I'd heard a few bad things about Tomko, and I heard Stu was more of a. Stu talked to me on the phone. I thought he was drunk. I said, oh, my God, this guy is drunk. I said, I should be able to take this guy easy, no problem, you know. I said, I was going to go with the drunk guy and try to steal his money. And wrong. I went up there, and he almost killed me for 3 months in his basement. He trained me personally. And then I worked his circuit for the next 3 years. And then I got the name The Anvil. He promised me $500 if I were to compete in this anvil throwing contest at the Calgary Stampede.
That's right,
100-pound anvil. And almost broke my back doing it. And there was a bunch of hockey players and blacksmiths and everything throwing this 100-pound anvil in front of this huge audience.
100 pounds? Oh, God.
Oh, man. And so this little blacksmith girl, about 100 pounds, just about beat me by an inch. True story. I thought, God, I can't be beat by a 100-pound blacksmith girl that looks pretty good, you know. So I just barely won it, barely, and that's how I kind of Neidhart kind of gave me that name.
And now after Calgary, you ended up in Mid-South Wrestling. Did they send you there, or how did you end up there?
Yeah, Stu, the Junkyard Dog had just left Calgary. He went down there and made that big, you know, got that Mid-South Wrestling going with that Junkyard Dog gimmick. I mean,
yeah.
He totally popped it. Unbelievably popped it. Sold out just everywhere. And then between Stu and Junkyard Dog, they got me down there in the program. And so worked there for 6 months with Butch Reed and Hacksaw Doug and, you know, Jake the Snake.
And when you went to how did you end up? You wrestled a couple other territories, Florida, Memphis, places like that.
Yeah, I was
how
6
did you
months
first?
in Memphis, 6 months down in Florida, and then I got a call to go up to New York, and I've been there ever since.
What was it like in that era in WWF? I mean, because that was from a schedule standpoint. I don't think anyone really. Today, everyone, you know, like they do the 4 days a week and everything like that. I mean, I remember when those guys, you know, in that era, were coming to San Francisco, and I mean, like it was like 28 days in a row on the road for real. You know, no breaks, no going home. That was pretty tough. That was a tough period.
Well, you're on for 3 weeks on, 4 or 5 days off, and that went on forever. And sometimes they just left you on there if you were important to the schedule. I remember Brett and I were on it one time for almost 3 months straight without going home or anything.
It's got to drive you out of your mind.
Yeah, a lot of guys didn't have any road experience cracked up. They couldn't have it. The Sheik has the record there, and Sheik has the record of 108 days.
108 straight days on the road?
Yeah.
No wonder he's out of his mind.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
108 days in a row.
Oh, God, without going home.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? We got a question. I knew this was going to happen, and it was the very first email that came in on this. What's your take on everything that happened in Montreal?
Wow. I just couldn't have gone home. I had an 8-man match with Shamrock and these guys. I just couldn't have gone home after that. I had to hang around.
Mm-hmm.
Hang around the building. And so I guess Brett didn't want to give the belt up, and you know, Vince wanted to put the belt on Sean, and so they had to do it some way. I mean, Brett had a good deal with WCW and was all set to go, and, you know, it's a courteous thing to do, to drop the belt to the group that you're leaving.
Mm-hmm.
But it was between Brett and Vince, and so anyway, Brett went nuts down there on the floor, and there was a big sword pulled on him. And then we all go sit in the locker room. There's me and Owen, Davey, and Brad and everything on one side of the locker room, and then Tony Garea, Vince, Shane, Pat Patterson, you know, and all the group on the other side. And Brett tells Vince, you don't get out of the locker room, by the time I get done tying the shoe, I'm going to come over there and kick the shit out of you. So Brett ties the shoe, gets up, went over there and knocked him out. There was a big dog pile. And I was on top of the dog pile in the middle of it, and Davey had dragged Brett out of there, and then was trying to go after Vince again. And they just, you know, everyone gathered around Vince saying, let him stand up so he can walk out on his own, you know. And that was about it.
Who do you think knew about it going in? Do you think Michaels knew?
Good question. I would have to imagine so.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how could they not know?
Yeah.
All it was is they did like the sharpshooter. Brett put the sharpshooter on Sean, and Sean reverses on Brett, and they were going to do a move out of that. So as, you know, Sean starts reversing the sharpshooter on Brett, and Brett's actually in a pin position, Vince yells to the timekeeper, ring the bell, ring the bell, ring the bell, hysterically. That night I ring the bell. Hebner gets out of the ring runs out of there.
As fast as he's ever run.
Kept running.
Yeah. And that was it. The fans were a little confused.
Yeah, we all were.
So Brett threw a big tantrum down there, worse than I could have ever done, and grabbed all the monitors and a lot of expensive things, started breaking everything. And the fans were confused. And I wasn't involved in the match at all, but I said, well, just out of old. Pardon me?
Oh wait, you weren't going to do a run-in, but wasn't Owen and Davey going to do? They were on deck to do a run-in or something.
We were on deck to do a run-in, but I think they did. We never got an answer. I couldn't get a straight answer out of anybody. And Bruce Pritchard was, being the monitor, I'm sure was in on it or knew about it, or how could they not be? So I'm not.
Well, if he's the one not giving you the cue to go, then he was in on it.
Yeah. But so I go back down there. I go to ringside down there and try to, because I thought they were going to riot. The fans were confused. They didn't know what was going on. So I finally got Brett back, and then that's when they went in the locker room and had the big thing, So everybody left, and I stayed there because I didn't have a contract. I thought that's why I could have served my jobs at,
Mm-hmm. Now, when you're sitting there watching Brett and Vince kind of going at it and everything, I mean, what were you thinking? Were you thinking anything? It was like, whoa, this is something new.
What's going on?
What the hell am I doing there? We just kind of stood up for each other because Brett and I, for one thing, have been through so much together. I felt that I owed him some kind of loyalty.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've been through WrestleMania 2, the big one, WrestleMania 3, 4, 5, 6. So many. We've been through so many hair-raising experiences. This is just another hair-raising experience. But really, it's between Vince and Brett, and I should have just stayed the hell out of it. But everybody just jumps in like you usually do in a fight, and try to break it up.
Mm-hmm.
So
we're going to start taking phone calls right now. We're going to start with Wes in Virginia. Wes, what's going on?
Hey guys, how's it going?
Good.
Hey.
Hi.
I wanted to ask Jim, what about the situation with Owen Hart, and did you think they should have continued the show? And it's people have opinions on both ways, but I wanted to hear yours.
Well, I got that race where Dale Earnhardt got killed. Did they stop the race there, or was it the last lap?
The race was already over.
Oh.
I mean, because he got killed on the last lap, so I mean, there have been races that have been stopped, there have been races that haven't been stopped, but that one there really wasn't a decision because it was already over.
I was in the back seat with Greg Valentine going to some other show, and we just heard about it. And I didn't know, I've never seen the replay on it. And I imagine the fall was like 9 stories. They didn't know if he was going to make it or not. From what I gathered, I haven't seen it, so I can't say for sure. But if a wrestler gets hurt, well, and then they take him off, you're going to continue the show because there's nothing really final there. That's the take I get on it.
I think they pretty much. I mean, he was dead in the ring.
Okay, I didn't see that.
Yeah, they kept it. They basically. There were people who knew, but they did keep it quiet. But later in the show, they made the announcement, and they still kept the show going. Like, it was about an hour later, Jim Ross made the announcement to the people at home, but not in the building. People in the building never knew.
Oh.
But the people at home, he goes, I have to give you this horrible news that Owen Hart just died. And then they immediately went to this video of, like, wasn't it something like someone hitting him with What was it that happened with Rock and Triple H? Because there was something in the video right after they announced the death that I'm going like, I can't believe they're showing this video now.
Yeah.
It was like a real violent video.
Yeah, I can't remember what it was. I just remember later Vince went away in the ambulance.
Vince went away in the ambulance. That was like right after Owen had died, which was also very strange. And then, but they showed something in the video was really weird to show. And then Rock and Triple H go out and do their match, and they did. I think it was one of their matches. I think probably Austin and Undertaker. I don't remember exactly on that show. That shows that point. By that point, that show's pretty much of a blur.
Yeah. That's a promoter's call. You know, there's only two kinds of promoters. You know, the bad and the worst. But might have something to do with the TV station. I have no idea. It seemed like the best thing to have done to have stopped the show out of respect. What was even weirder was the next day. No. Yeah, I'm mistaken. I'm thinking about the Pillman death.
Yeah, the Pillman death was you were there when Pillman died and they did the show and
they were waiting for him in St. Louis and he OD'd in his room and I think two stories mixed up, but it's kind of a correlation there a little bit where Pillman died in St. Louis and the next day, right after 24 hours fresh, they get his wife on the screen.
Oh, was that weird?
Yep.
So you see the correlation there a little bit?
Yeah.
Explain to just so fresh about how she didn't like the wrestling, didn't think it was right, and this and that, and it was a real tearjerker. I thought that was kind of in poor taste. I don't know. Too quick.
And she wasn't ready to be on TV.
No.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, mentally, you could just tell that she had no idea what she was saying or doing.
No.
You know, I mean,
I just thought that was very poor taste.
Yeah.
But
you were kind of in the post the situation with Owen's death and then the big legal problems that went on for a long period afterwards. You were kind of, I don't know if you were neutral or you just kind of kept out of it, because I know like we'd have Brett on the show and Brett was always, the one thing I'll say about Jim is Jim never said anything. You know what I mean? He always said that like, you kept neutral, so that was fine. It wasn't like, like the family was split apart and everything. I mean, what was your thought? You just figured that you just had to stay out of it because everybody else was just at each other's throats, or?
Well, it was such a horrible thing. I wasn't there at the event. The real problem was with Owen and his wife, and handling, that was their personal problem, and then and Stu and Vince suing, and Owen and Martha, Owen's wife, suing, and I really didn't think it had a lot to do with me. So I kind of, I won't tell you what I really think happened, but I've always kept quiet on what I really think happened.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not for me to say. I don't think. I wasn't there, so.
Wes, is there anything else?
Yeah, I just want to ask Jim one more. What was behind the breakup of the Hart family that you and Brett back in the WWF? I guess was it 89 or 90 around that time period? What was the kind of the insight into that?
Well, the breakup behind there was Vince lent me a lot of money to fight this lawsuit, which is totally bogus, where the stewardess says I hit her on the airplane, this and that. And anyway, I won $500,000, and anyway, I owed Vince some money. I said, listen, I owe him like $150,000. I said, listen, can I just pay you back in quarterly pieces? And he got mad at me. And so the next day, Brett and I were champions. We just started new T-shirts out and everything. And he goes, Brett, we're going to give you everything you ever wanted. And then he went on to fire me in the next couple of months, So that was fun.
Yeah.
So did he ever get his $150,000?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Got my royalties.
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
I just didn't want to come out with a thing with nothing.
Yeah.
I said, God, I have a little something here. Like, can I just pay you off on a quarterly royalty basis? Would that be all right? But that was the wrong move on my part.
Yeah. Who came up with the idea of who and why?
Really?
What was that all about? J.J. Dillon?
Who came up with the idea of who? Well, after I was a bad boy, I did something else wrong. I can't remember what. I think I smoked a marijuana cigarette, and they found it in my urine or whatever. I was let go for a couple of weeks or a month or something like that, and they had to torture me. They brought me back and wanted me to wear a mask. And so they came with this thing named Who, you know. Everybody knew it was me. You can see my body and stuff. But it was different, you know. And then I was in Uniondale in New York there. Then I went out there and wore the Heart Foundation outfit. And so it was just, I don't know who came with the idea name Who. I think it was J.J.
You wore the Heart Foundation outfit with the Who mask?
No. I did the Who gimmick, and then I came out in another match with Sid, I think, and did the Heart Foundation outfit, and I wrestled in that. So kind of two characters for the price of one.
Oh, okay.
That's good.
Yeah. Well,
So whatever came of that gimmick, did they just give up on it? Had you served your time?
Yeah, I served my time, and they gave up on it, and then they went back to the Heart Foundation thing.
Let's go to Greg in Rhode Island. Greg, you're next up.
Hey, what's up, guys? Jim, my question is for you. I was definitely a big fan of the Heart Foundation, even when you guys were heel back in '97. And obviously, one of the questions I've always wondered was your last television appearance with the WWF. It was shortly after the Montreal incident with Bret Hart, when on that Raw, D-Generation X, it was like a tease that you were going to be the fourth member, and they teased it all night. And in the main event, it was just they turned on you and they beat you, and then they did that spray paint with WCW. Did you know about it?
Yeah.
That they spray painted WCW on you like that?
Oh, yeah. But you know,
Did they know you were hitting a WCW at the time? Is that why they wrote it?
I mean, did everyone, like, you had already given notice and you were going to go, or was that, or?
Yeah, but I was kind of in the middle of everything, and basically, I do pretty much what I'm told, you know. And I was working with China. I was telling China, you got to do more in the ring, you know. I think that's the first time she ever slammed anybody. I said, you got to pick me up and slam me. Do more with me, you know. Don't just stand out there. So.
She really laced into you, didn't she?
No.
Not the
but
forearms?
Working on her, perfecting her nut shot. And then I said, you know, Pat Patterson goes, well, you got to pick him up too. And we worked on that, you know, and she's very nice. And then they did the WCW thing, and then that was it. I've always thought that the WCW and WWF were working together anyway.
Really? Behind the scenes? Really?
Stu Hart told me that a long time ago.
Oh, okay.
But I didn't care. I was going for 3 times the money that I was making with New York.
What was your thoughts of the Heroes of Wrestling show?
Famous Jake the Snake Roberts.
And wrestling Jake the Snake Roberts.
Well, that's the good one. Actually, I felt pretty good in that match. But this little promoter, independent promoter, can't remember his name now, runs out of northern upstate New York.
Mike Henry, maybe?
No, Michael
Bryan?
Michael Bryan.
Okay, Michael Bryan, yeah.
Real nice guy, always treated me great. He goes, yeah, Jimmy, why don't you do a job for Jake? I said, I'm not doing it. And then he goes, okay. And he comes back 5 minutes later, he goes, well, you have to do the job for Jake. I said, I'm not doing it. How many times have I tell you guys? I'm not doing it. Jake's back there smoking a crack pipe, you know, and didn't bother to share it or anything. I'm just kidding. But I said, this guy's smoking a crack pipe back here, and you want me to put him over? I don't know what he's going to do in the ring.
that was a prophecy, wasn't it?
Yeah, so then 10 months later, that Mike goes, Jim, wants you a job for Jim. I said, how many times do I have to say I'm not doing it? So I go out there, I make my entrance, we haven't got any finish whatsoever. Jake comes out and goes, all right, I'll do it, I'll put you over. Then Bundy was my partner, and Yokozuna was Jake's partner. And Jake was so out of it that I remember, damn near killed him. You You know, we managed to get the match through, but then Jake started doing all that shit with the snake and putting it in his mouth and his crotch and everywhere. Had that horrible interview, and it was quite the night to remember.
Yes, it was.
Oh, yes, it was. Yeah, I know. Greg, anything else?
No, that's all, guys.
Okay, thanks. We're gonna go Charles in Pittsburgh. Charles, what's up?
Hey, Jim, what's going on?
Hi.
Hey, yeah, 'cause this has to do with that story you're talking about, Jake. 'Cause on ScoopsWrestling.com they had an interview with Jake, and he said they asked him about the Heroes of Wrestling pay-per-view, and he said the reason that he got drunk or whatever, messed up, was because he was kind of shooken up because he said you threatened him with bodily harm if he didn't put you over in that
He's
match.
a liar.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, right.
Jake's
That's
my
a good
best
excuse.
What?
Someone was threatened with bodily harm every day.
friend. He was probably afraid that I'd grab his pipe from him and wouldn't give it back or something.
And he said he didn't know what to do, so he said he just turned to the drugs.
To the bottle.
He turns to the Lord and goes, Lord, what should I do?
No,
Great.
Jake's one of my best friends. Yeah, you know, it wasn't, you know, Jake and I, we, you know, it doesn't work like that. I'm not going to threaten. I haven't threatened anybody with bodily harm.
Yeah, but I was also going to ask you about the Heroes of Wrestling. What do you think could have been different to where it could have turned out to be a success?
I don't know. I don't know. I never saw it.
You were just there.
You were lucky.
Yeah, I heard it wasn't any good. I was just trying to look good myself. I wasn't worried about anybody else.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad because you'd have been really worried if you had seen everybody else.
But,
Hello?
yeah.
We lost
Okay.
Charles.
Okay. This is from Scott here. Emailed in and goes, are you still in contact with Brett, and how is Brett doing as far as the concussion and any post-concussion syndrome or anything like that?
Yeah, I see Brett every now and then. He lives up the road here. We go mountain biking together every now and then. And the concussion seems, you know, it seems a little slow, but we're getting better.
What about Dynamite Kid? Have you been in any contact with Dynamite Kid at all?
I was supposed to see him when I went up to England last month for a 12-day tour, and I really want the last little town we were at. He was so close to there, and he's very bitter about the English wrestling and stuff, you know. And I really want to come up there and have him help us do maybe some TV work or get involved with our program because it was pretty successful. But no, I never did get to see him. I just got his email.
I've got a couple of questions for you regarding the WWF days. Remember the match? In fact, this is probably the first time you guys won the tag team titles, where Dynamite was basically crippled, and they brought him in the match in Tampa. I mean, what's your remembrances of that?
Well, we had to take the belts, and Davey Boy could wrestle good, and Dynamite's back was so bad. We figured if we just do Dynamite before he gets out of the door, then Davey would have to fight the match by himself. Now, you know, and eventually we took the belts that way.
I mean, do you think, Dynamite wasn't even walking at that point in time, and they flew him in from Calgary to Tampa, and kind of brought him to the ring somehow, and you just got rid of him real
He never made
quick.
it to the ring, I don't think.
Yeah, no, I know he was never tagged in or anything like that.
I don't think he ever made it outside the door, outside the locker door. We jumped him as he came outside the door, so we never really had him come too far.
Mm-hmm. Did you think, at the time that was a little extreme to even bring him in? Or do you think it was just business?
I was just glad to get the belt.
Yeah. Now, what about the match? There was a match a couple years later where you guys wrestled the Rockers. I think it was in Ohio. I may have the state wrong. It might have been Indiana. But anyway, they won the belts, and then it was reversed. I think it's Fort Wayne, Indiana, now that I think about it. They won the belts, then it was reversed. Then they did some story about the ropes were loose or the ropes were broke or something.
There's 2 out of 3 falls, and first the second rope broke, then the top rope broke. I said, how are we going to do this the next 2 falls if there's no ropes?
Yeah.
All the finishes are off the ropes.
Mm-hmm. All the finishes were off the ropes. Oh, my God.
So here Marty and Sean were ready to take the belts, But since the top ropes broke, there wasn't a lot we could do about it, and after the match was over, they never got the belts.
Yeah. Okay, this is someone who just emailed in. The video that we were talking about, oh, my God. See, I remember something was really weird. It was Rock was in a coffin, and Hunter was destroying the coffin with a sledgehammer, and this aired
right, yeah.
Remember that? Oh, because I remember watching it going, I cannot believe they aired this video. You know, but whatever. Let's see, what else? Is Charles up?
Sam.
Okay, we're going to go to Sam. Sam, what's up?
Hey, Edville, how's it going?
Good.
I have a couple questions for you. I remember in '93 you were in WCW for like 2 days. Whatever happened with that?
2 days? No, I think I was there a little longer than that. But they were in 1993. They were kind of they rented a little studio in Atlanta. They were running little southern towns, and they weren't quite as big as they were. And I just came in for some dailies for them.
Okay.
You came in for a certain amount of money for a day.
Were you surprised when they finally went out of business, or did you kind of see it coming when you were in there?
Well, they're a broadcasting company, and they're not a wrestling company like the WWF.
Mm-hmm.
And I found it very funny to go in there and work for them, and, the girl telling you what to do worked for Budget Rent-A-Car 2 weeks ago, And so I found it very odd to work for people who weren't wrestling people.
Mm-hmm.
Were you asked to be in the gimmick battle royal as who? The one at WrestleMania?
Oh, at WrestleMania?
Yeah.
Ooh. Was I in the gimmick battle? Pardon me?
Oh, no. They had a gimmick
You want to
battle
know if you were
royal.
asked to be in the gimmick battle royal as who?
No, nobody ever said one thing to me.
And at the Heroes of Wrestling, did the reason King Kong Bundy and Yoko run out is because Jake was so, stoned?
Good question. We had that damn snake, and God knows what he was doing with that snake, for one thing. It was everywhere.
That was hilarious.
And he was doing kind of illicit, let's say, things with that snake,
So those guys just kind of came. That was like the whole thing where that thing turned into a tag. That was pretty much booked. As far as that goes, that was booked that way that night, right?
I don't think so.
Oh, it wasn't. Okay.
Was there supposed to be 2 singles matches or something like that?
It was originally 2 singles matches.
Yeah,
I know that.
Yeah.
It was Yoko, King Kong Bundy.
Yeah.
And then as time got closer to, going out, we, they kept asking me, Jim, you're going to do it. I said, I'm not doing it. I'm not. So we just had to kind of make that one up.
Yeah.
But I remember Bundy was just a little bit out of shape, and he dropped a knee on Jake's neck. I swear to God, lucky Jake's got a neck at all anymore. He really dropped on him hard. And
How is the Bulldog doing?
the Bulldog, I've heard that he's over in England right now. I haven't seen him up here in Calgary.
Okay. And I met Brett on Saturday, and he looks pretty good. He looks like he can get
Brett
back
on
in the ring.
Saturday?
Yeah.
He did some autograph show in New York, yeah.
Yeah, I met him in Yonkers.
Yeah. He was doing all right?
Yeah, he looks pretty good. He looks like he can get in the ring just as long as his head's okay.
Yeah. I don't think he'll be wrestling again, though.
Oh, you think he's retired for good?
Every time I say a wrestler's retired, anytime I say a wrestler's retired, it usually ends up being like something that you should never say. So I will never say for good, but I think that he's as close to for good as anyone.
Okay, thanks, guys.
If there's a such thing as a for good. Let's go to Sean in Pennsylvania. Sean, what's going on?
Hey, how you doing? I had just a couple quick questions. Someone got to one of them already. And 3 questions. One, Jim, what are your thoughts on traditional big man, small man tag teams? They've kind of disappeared, and I think business kind of suffers for it because I thought it was always a good way to get 2 people who had different skills and have them complement each other in the ring.
Yeah, well, you don't see that too much anymore. It always does kind of, you're always waiting for the big guy to get in and help out the little guy, and then it does tell a good story.
Yeah.
Good question. I think it's weird that the girls wrestle the guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, almost every time. It never looks right, does it?
No, I don't like that.
Yeah.
But it's the millennium. It's the 2001. Things are changing. Jericho and China, I know, had an exceptional match, where it's just kind of odd that a man and a woman would wrestle together. I don't know.
That one wasn't so odd.
And It's done nothing for business. That's the thing, you know. There's zero business, you know. I don't know when someone's going to learn, you know. If it'd be one thing if it worked and it drew, but it never draws.
I actually think that China and Jarrett, because of the way the angle went, was a pretty good thing.
Yeah.
After that, I think that it was just after that, I agree with you though. I think that it doesn't do anything for business. I don't think anyone really wants to see it except for, I think there's some people, some women fans. I think there's some women fans that are man haters that kind of got a big kick out of China beating guys, but that's a real small percentage of the audience.
Yeah, Hunter wants to see it.
Not anymore.
These last two questions, I'm going to group them together. What are your thoughts on Shawn Michaels as a wrestler and as a person? And what are your thoughts on drugs and wrestling?
What, me?
Yeah, you.
What are my thoughts on Shawn Michaels? I always thought he was a good guy. We always got along very well.
And what are your thoughts on drugs and wrestling?
What kind of drugs?
Recreational and prescription.
Well, you know, we have no union, so nobody should be telling us what to do. But a promoter's got, you know, his obligations to keep with insurance companies and things like that, you know, and a promoter wants to keep his guys healthy. And God knows we've had our share of overdoses and problems with drugs, you know, so you've really got to, you know, watch it and keep yourself healthy.
How would you compare, and I mean, I know the era is different because you were much, much younger and it was years and years ago, but how would you compare drug usage in track and field with drug usage in pro wrestling? As far as I'm talking about, when I'm talking about them, I'm talking about like more like the steroid use as opposed to, you know.
Well, the shot putters, when I was doing, we were the ones that started the whole damn thing out.
Mm-hmm.
And the lifters, and that wasn't, no one even thought of using any anabolic steroids. But when I was at UCLA, Tom Tellez had insisted that I take them.
Huh.
And he injected them into me himself.
Mm-hmm.
And said, this is the only way you're ever going to get a world record. And stuff like that, you know. Other than that, I don't think anybody else is even using anabolic steroids except the shot putters and weight throwers and the Olympic lifters.
In those days?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it certainly, you know, years later, I think pretty much, I mean, I don't know everybody, but certainly spread like in the last 20 years like crazy.
Yeah, the problem is...
Go ahead.
Me?
Yeah, go ahead.
The problem is guys' bodies aren't, a lot of guys' bodies don't accept that anabolic steroid drug, and that's what causes problems.
Mm-hmm.
I've never had any problems. I'm in completely perfect condition. I wouldn't recommend it to anybody, but I know Vince McMahon watches, you know, there's some pretty big guys out there too, you know. But he watches his athletes and drugs very carefully and tries to keep everyone as healthy as possible.
When you were there, this is like the 80s, okay? Just talking about that period. I mean, what were you? Because there were guys there. I mean, I think it probably got worse later. But certainly during the 80s, there was a period there where they had some, you know, guys like, you know, like the Warlord and stuff. I mean, how do these guys get like that? You know what I mean?
And what percentage of guys do you think were on steroids in the 80s in the WWF?
Well, I can't say for sure. You know, see, the problem with the steroids and, you know, your schedule is so hectic. And anabolic steroids help you recuperate fast, and that's the deal. Because you're wrestling, you know, all week long, your body is really sore. You need that little bit of extra energy and the recuperation and able to perform at a maximum level. You know, you really do.
I know that you would never cross paths with him because your career started after his ended, but did Stu ever tell you stories about Johnny Valentine?
Johnny Valentine, yes, he did.
Yeah.
And Johnny Valentine was the master at pulling ribs and going out to the ring with mustard gas. You know what that is?
No, I don't.
It's a little thing you hold in a bottle in your hand, and you squirt it at somebody, and it burns their skin and stuff.
Oh, my God.
That's nice.
Let's see. I want to make two quick mentions and we get back to the phone calls. One is that tomorrow night at 10:30 on MTV Diary is going to do a feature on The Rock, which they just filmed last week. And also, this is, whoa. Who's here and who's not?
Did we lose Jim?
Okay, we'll get Jim back. Okay, well, I'll just read this one real quick. The Stampede tag team match that your email asked about today was Dynamite Kid and Johnny Smith against Davey Boy Smith and Chris Benoit. They did the tag team to set up a Dynamite Davey Boy match and feud. I remember when they did the Dynamite Davey Boy feud when they split and they turned Dynamite heel. But the match never happened because before they could get the match, Davey Boy was injured in an auto accident. So then Dynamite ended up feuding with Owen Hart. I remember they had about 3 weeks worth of great matches. I remember that. And then before Dynamite could do the feud with Chris Benoit, which they were going to do, Stampede Wrestling closed. So that's the story on Dynamite Kid and Chris Benoit. So they never did actually do a match. Jim, you're back.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else on Johnny Valentine before we hit the calls?
Greg Valentine broke in Stu Hart's territory, of course, but if you'd have talked to Stu about Johnny Valentine, you'd probably talked to him for days about him.
Yeah, I would think so.
But I remember Johnny Valentine used to make a very, very slow, deliberate entrance to the ring, and just it really, really had the people believe in him and mesmerized the people, and was really, really a tremendous draw, a tremendous wrestler, but a tremendous ribber, too.
Let's go to Greg in California. Greg, you're up with Jim Neidhart.
I ran into the British Bulldog about
Hello.
3 or 4 weeks ago, and he said to me, I'm your wicked.
All right, he's gone. God, he waited like so long for that one. Okay, let's go to Matt. Matt, what's up?
From Canada.
How's it going,
Matt.
guys?
Going good.
This is a question about the new WCW. Just wondering what kind of ring they're going to use as far as the ropes and stuff. Are they going to go with the traditional WCW stuff, or
that's a good question.
Like a WWF ring?
I don't know the answer to that. Have you heard anything on that, Brian?
I have no idea.
Like any guess?
Because they did buy the rings, so they may.
I would think that they would start out using the same rings just because those guys are used to working in them.
Yeah,
you don't want to break
smaller,
a whole
right?
crew that's used to a WCW ring in with like a WWF ring on the first show.
Right, yeah.
Maybe phase them in later, but I don't know. I'd use the same rings.
Smaller ring, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a smaller ring, yeah.
Like smaller and the steel cable ropes.
Yeah, it's like the elevator cable ropes, I think, is what it is.
Yeah.
You just take a couple of steps and you're across the ring.
Jim, let's talk about the rings real quick. What was the difference between the ring in Stampede Wrestling, WWF, and WCW for you? Or do you really even care?
Oh, the ring, there's a big difference in the rings. As far as the WWF is 20/20. That's a monster. You're running a football field there.
Mm-hmm.
From turnbuckle to turnbuckle. On WCW, a couple of steps across the ring, you're there.
It was like 16 by 16, wasn't it?
Yeah, they said 18, but it seemed more like a 16er. It was much easier to work in because you have to take so many steps.
Mm-hmm.
And once you get used to smaller rings, add 5 years to your career. But you're in the WWF, and you're going to get thrown from one turnbuckle to another turnbuckle. You better be ready to run.
Okay,
How
Greg,
about the ropes?
Pardon me?
Oh, I'm sorry,
How about
Sam.
the ropes?
I would much prefer the WWF ropes.
Really?
Yeah, because you can hit them. You can't hit the WCW ropes; they're too hard.
Mm-hmm.
You'll hit them and bounce back and land on your ass.
But for springboarding, like for the Flyers, I think isn't the WCW ring better for them?
Yeah, I think they like that a lot better.
Well, the real small guys.
Because they're tighter. It's easier to do a springboard off them. Like the loose ropes, you never know what's going to happen.
Well, sometimes those the rope ropes, the WWF, are pretty tight. But now and then, as the show goes on, they get loose.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the lighter guys, like the tighter ropes.
I think those cables, you'll never see anyone like in WCW tied up in the ropes like in WWF. It's
No way.
impossible.
No way, you can't tie them up too tight.
So that's how Foley lost his ear, eh?
But one thing, the major difference is in the tag situation between the two rings. Like the smaller rings, you can't tell as much of a story as you can with a bigger ring, as far as tags. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because yeah.
You're so much closer and everything.
Yeah, you make one little move, you're ready to tag.
Yeah.
But there's so much of you got more room. Like battle royals are better than the WWF ring because they've got more room and more room to move around and do things. It's a much bigger stage.
Anything else, Matt?
No, that's cool. Thanks, guys.
Okay, let's go to George. George, what's up?
What's up, fellas?
Hey.
I just wanted to ask Jim one quick question, really. I wanted to know how you felt about some of the Dungeons graduates that are wrestling today, like, Benoit, Jericho, Lance Storm.
They all seem to be doing pretty good.
I see a lot of similarities in their styles, of course, as everyone does.
Well, everybody's trying to, we all kind of copied Dynamite.
Mm-hmm.
And, they just, Calgary, you can learn a real good style up here when it was going, when it was really flourishing.
Mm-hmm.
Very believable, technically.
Well, it's kind of a combination between American, English, and Japanese styles. It's kind of a combo and the Calgary style,
What do you think of this when they had you in WCW? What do you think of the way that they had you put over your stories inside of the ring versus working in the WWF?
We didn't get much of a story at all, and as soon as we got some kind of a story, they canceled it.
Yeah.
We got good money, but they really shit on us.
Yeah. They made a lot of mistakes. Well, thanks a lot, Jim. I'm a very big fan of the Hart Foundation, and I appreciate you coming on the show. Dave, Brian, talk to you guys soon.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go to, is it Tim next?
Yeah, hello, guys.
Hey, how are you, Tim?
Hey.
Pretty good. I have a question for Anvil, and then one or two things for Dave.
Sure.
First, is there any talk about Bret Hart getting back into wrestling in any capacity?
I don't think so at this moment.
No? All right. And for Dave, I don't know if you guys have talked about this recently or in the past, but I've noticed that WWF is putting up some, subliminal images during their programming of XFL.
Like football?
Yeah. Have you noticed that?
I have noticed that, and the Dukes of Hazzard.
Oh, I haven't noticed Dukes, but anybody...
Oh, I've seen the Dukes, but I always assume that's TNN doing, not the...
I think it's just TNN having a screw-up in the feed.
Yeah, that's what I always figured.
Because it doesn't make sense to me that they would have a videotape rolling and they're cutting to it. Like, they would have to have that tape rolling, so it's kind of, intentional to an extent. And
the football, is intentional.
Yeah, but that I thought that's illegal. And then the second thing is that...
Well, he owns both shows. I don't know if it's illegal.
Well, movie theaters, they can't, show...
Well, just the act of doing the subliminal,
Uh-huh. But, the times that they do it in, this past Monday, if anybody recorded the show, they could see it. It's when, right before they cut to the commercial, Trish Stratus is there stretching, showing her cleavage and her curves, and then they cut really quick to the football, and then they cut
That was
back.
Disturbing.
Huh?
That particular moment.
Yeah. And the other thing is that this Undertaker, Kane, Triple H, Stone Cold, they're beating it. It's dead. It's been hung, stabbed, and drowned, and it needs to end. They're going to do another pay-per-view with it, and there's no way me or my friends are going to purchase this. It's so disgusting.
They work pretty hard, though.
They might work hard, but it's geez, it's so disturbing. It really is.
You want to see something different in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, something new.
Everyone's everyone's craving something different in the main events right now, especially because Rock left, so that left one babyface spot open, and then Austin turned, so they figured, okay, this is the golden opportunity to elevate somebody new, but instead it was, they brought Undertaker back in that spot, and I don't know. We've heard nothing positive about it.
It's horrible. I hate it. And what's the deal? If they're going to put Undertaker for another month in the main event, why can't they turn him into a dead man again, in some storyline?
Well, it's going back in time. You got to go forward in time.
If you watch Undertaker, he's never worked better in his life, though. He's really wrestling really well.
Yeah.
He wrestled real well at the pay-per-view. That's the best he's looked since he's been back.
So he's really trying to hold his own. You got to give him a little bit of credit there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I kind of miss the old dead guy. That's what everybody wants back. Well, that's all. Thanks, guys.
Jim, we got a couple of emails about Australia. Are you going to be going to the Superstars of Wrestling tour in Australia over the summer?
Well, I sure hope I am. I was supposed to go there with Animal and Legion Doom and everything at the beginning of March, and then I went to England, and I guess it got pushed back to June or something. But no one said hi and hair to me.
So you haven't even heard anything from them since then?
No, they're supposed to send me money, and I signed a contract with them, and Joe from the Legion of Doom, has organized this thing, and I don't know what's up.
There's another question here from Chris who says, this is WrestleMania 6, so this is Trump Plaza in... No, wait, 6 was Toronto Skydome, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Toronto Skydome. Okay, it says Hart Foundation Bolsheviks match. Why was it a 1-minute match?
Good question. I don't know. Well, when you get out there in front of 6,000-7,000 people, you like to show your wares a little bit. I had some guy.
Not to mention 60,000.
Yeah. Some guy over in England, he was just ecstatic. He thought it was one of the best matches he's ever seen. I can't believe you're saying this, I guess it makes you look strong or whatever, but I guess they're running out of time or something. I don't know.
But I mean, when you was it something where you were just cut back on time when you got out there because they were running late, or was it, or like when you went there, did they say, hey, you're going to just go run over them?
Well, that was the night that Hulk dropped the belt to Warrior.
Yeah.
So that was a big night, and so that was a big change in the guard there, and everything was really focused on that. I think it was kind of a time thing.
Mm-hmm. Any good prospects up there in Calgary?
Any prospects in Calgary? We're not doing a lot right now here.
Mm-hmm.
We're not wrestling a lot now, so it's hard to say, really.
Yeah.
What about Matt Rest? Do you know any of those guys, like Ted Annis and those guys?
Yeah, he's related to me. He's my nephew.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I haven't heard much about it. I did a little skit with them to get the pilot going.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like a cute little show. Wrestlers under 21, and they have 200 screaming girls there, and just younger wrestlers doing the stuff, and pertaining strictly toward a small younger kids. So I heard Eric Bishop was involved in that.
Mm-hmm.
But I just haven't heard too much more from it. I think they were going to ask me to do something else there, but I haven't heard from them.
Okay. We're going to run to James in Kentucky. James, how are you?
Pretty good. How y'all doing?
Good.
Hey, Dynamite Dave.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, Jim?
Yeah?
I'm a real big fan of yours, and I was wanting to know, are you going to be in the new WCW?
I'll tell you, I'm training really hard and making a real effort at making a serious comeback with either one of the groups or both groups or the combined group or whatever. But I would definitely like to make a real nice comeback with one of the two groups.
Yeah. Dave, I got a question for you, too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's about the Raw on Monday night. I watched it, and they had low rating. What was their rating by the...
It was a 5.0. It was down a tenth from the week before.
Oh, yeah?
It's not
pretty much the same.
Low. Yeah, it's not. I wouldn't call it a low rating, but it's like the rating. The rating hasn't moved since WCW went off the air, so I think that's got to be disappointing. I'd call it a disappointing rating, but 5.0 this day and age for a cable show, you can't call that a low rating.
Hey, Dave.
Yes.
At the end of that match on the main event, Stone Cold and them.
Yeah.
Do you think that was a little bit too violent?
Oh, with the chairs and everything like that?
Yeah, hitting them.
To me, it's the same thing
Any
that's
other
been done
beating.
for weeks. Yeah,
I mean,
it's a
it's not. There's sometimes Vince McMahon forgets there's little children watching this, and
no, he doesn't forget. He just.
I don't think he forgets. He just doesn't really care.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Well, there is no real censorship on any of the TV shows anyway.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, is Brett coming back to wrestling soon?
No.
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 Okay, Jim, would you tell Brett I say hello?
Will do.
James from Kentucky.
James from Kentucky.
And I still think about Owen every day. And I'll never forget Owen.
Yeah, a lot of people do up here too, and all over the world.
Yeah.
Tragic. It's horrible.
Yeah, it is. And it's nice talking to you. And
all right.
Thanks, James.
Okay, Jim. You mentioned earlier we were talking about the thing. How did that, the Owen Hart news, how did that, you said you were doing an independent show or something. How did you get that news?
I was right in the back seat going to the hotel after a show with Greg the Hammer Valentine, and I get a call from someone on my cell phone from Calgary, told me about it. But, we didn't know what to believe till we got back to the hotel.
Mm. Yeah, well, I mean, what's that like? Because you've probably gotten phone calls over the years. Somebody died, and it turned out to be, I know I have.
Even Brett got that one in WCW about Stu.
Brett, right before pay-per-view, Brett got a phone call from that Stu had died. Right before a match, and he ended up doing the match, and it was not a good match or anything like that. Yeah, so it's like yeah.
Yeah, you never know what to think. There's, so many pranksters out there with professional wrestling. I read a couple of occasions that I have died myself 2 times.
That's right.
So,
now that must be really eerie.
Yeah. I've done all kinds of bad things, and I've died this and that. People, jeez. It's amazing that people will gossip, and I think that's a very poor taste to have someone,
Oh, God, yeah. That's why those always scare me when because we've been on the show many times where, there's been internet rumor about somebody dying, and at times it's been true, and at times it's been false. It just, scares me. I always freeze up because
it's like, it's just, I don't know. It's like every couple of months someone has to die on the internet.
The thing I'm afraid of is someone's going to call up on the show and ask about it, and when you don't know the answer, then what do you say? Because it's I don't know. I mean, because I remember the day that Bobby Duncombe died, and I had certainly heard about it on the before we did the show, but I hadn't got it confirmed by anyone, so I didn't bring it up. And I was going, God, I hope someone doesn't call up and ask me, because it may be true, but I just don't know. And that one turned out to be true, but then. Yeah, there was one time we were on the show, and it was all over, Mabel died. In fact, he was alive and didn't die at all. So, that's pretty strange. Anyway, okay, we got Mike. Mike, what's going on?
Not too bad. How you doing, guys?
Hi, Mike.
Doing good.
Jim, I had a question for you. I'm not sure if anybody asked you this during the show, because I only got on about an hour ago. How did Vince McMahon convince you to do the Who gimmick?
He says, well, Jim says, we've got a spot for you. We're going to put a mask on you. Want to get away from the Heart Foundation thing, do this and that. And I said, okay.
It's a job.
It's hard to wrestle with a mask on, by the way.
Did you find it kind of have you ever worked with a mask before?
No. I hope I never have to again. But it's hard. You can't see out the sides.
Mm-hmm.
You got to look at everybody straight ahead.
Did you gain an appreciation for Mexican wrestlers?
Yes.
Plus, they did all that stupid commentary off the Abbott Costello deal.
Oh, yeah.
Who's that in the ring? Yes, that is who.
Yeah, it was kind of crappy.
Somebody, that's probably what it was, is that somebody had seen that Abbott and Costello routine and go, we're going to
probably Vince Russo.
Yeah.
Was Russo there at the time?
I believe so.
Wasn't he Big Venom or something like that in the Raw?
I don't know what he's doing now. Last time I saw, he was trying to wrestle in the ring.
Yes, he did. Yes, he got 3 concussions in 4 matches.
He did get one good match with Ric Flair, of all people.
That's right. He had a good match with Ric Flair. It was amazing, because now, I mean, that was the proof that Ric Flair, whenever Ric Flair had a bad match, there had to be something wrong, because Ric Flair had a good match with Vince Russo.
Yeah.
And Russo's first ever match.
A good match with Luger.
I'd like to ask you guys a question, a real short question.
Sure.
Would it be possible?
Of course.
What the hell has happened to the XFL? Is it over? Is it done? Or is it a good ratings? Or
ratings were terrible. It's not done yet, but it's in grave jeopardy. Publicly, the WWF is saying that they're absolutely 100% going to do a second season, but it may not happen because NBC is definitely not going to run it next year, and UPN is kind of given hints that they won't, but they haven't made an official decision. And if UPN doesn't, I think that they won't be able to do it just because TNN alone, I mean, there's just no way. Even with UPN and TNN, there's no way, but they may, publicly they've said if we don't have a major network, we won't do it. So it's really up to...
That's a shame because, with any new league, they should give it a little chance. The first time a new league starts up, it's hard, like the old NFL and AFL, and, no one like that either. They should give it a little chance.
I think the problem is they just jumped right in and, right on NBC in prime time. And, I mean, at the end of the year, it's going to be like $120 million, or something like that they lost over the course of the season. And it's just too much.
Yeah, it is too much.
The other thing, too, is that, what's different from this league and every other league is that it's one guy owning every team. Like, if they had 10 teams.
Bet on it?
Well, they still did. They were encouraging.
They did.
Yeah, but if you had 10 different guys and they're all losing, like, say, $10 million, that's one thing. But when you got one guy and he's losing 100, it's like with the soccer leagues, the women's and the men's league. I mean, those leagues are losing a lot of money too. They're not losing quite as much as the women's league is going to lose a ton of money. I mean, it's guaranteed. But they have different people in each city. It's not like it's one guy owning the whole league, because then that would really be a lot of money losing.
Yeah, I don't think people are ready to watch football 12 months out of the year. But other than that, and the camera footage with them, like, different, it was too choppy.
Mm-hmm.
You go to one guy's back, one guy's foot, one girl's cheerleading, and this and that. You can't. I did want to watch the game one time, but it was so choppy it made me almost throw up.
Really?
You couldn't watch the game.
I kind of got a kick out of the new angles, but then they, when they were coming back on expenses and everything, they kind of gave up on it and started doing, But I thought that, like, in hindsight, the theory he had, which was you start a week after the Super Bowl because so many people are into football, I thought that was flawed because I just remember when I was a big football fan that when the Super Bowl was over, I didn't want to watch football again for 6 months.
You're watching another sport.
Yeah, it's time to. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think they'd have been more successful, maybe like August, September. Where you haven't seen
before
football
the regular
in a couple
season.
Months. Before, but you don't want to compete with the NFL, but like the season that they said that they put it in, I knew that was going to be trouble because it's like right at that point where you don't want to watch football, then they're going to give you football. It's like, and then plus
football's out, a great Super Bowl, and that's it. Give it a rest, and then the season starts up again in autumn.
Yeah, that's how people are. That's the whole mentality people have.
With some big tradition there.
Yeah.
But anyway,
how come you never played college football? It was just
I was going to play my senior year. I was on a track and field scholarship. I was going to play my senior year, and the coach goes, "Well, how do you know you can play football?" I said, "I was high school American," and he recruited me as a football. He goes, "No, I don't think so." And so then here, a couple weeks later, I'm on the field doing well with the Dallas Cowboys, and the whole, UCLA staff down there going, "Geez, Jim, why don't you tell us you could play?" And I did. I told that guy right over there that I wanted to play. He wouldn't let me.
Well, I mean, when you look back, I mean, do you think that, like, gosh, I came so close to making the Cowboys. If I had played 4 years of college, I could have had a couple of years in the NFL, maybe? I mean, do you ever think about that? Or
yeah, I played a year and a half with the Oakland Raiders after the Cowboys.
Yeah, but I mean, what were your thoughts on all that? But I mean, you lost the 4 years of experience that you would have gained had you played college football.
I'm pretty short, being 5'11", but I would love to have played 10 years. Football had like a regular pension and medical benefits like most athletes have, most people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, bring us on. What are your thoughts on that as far as, you've been in wrestling for, what about 21, 22 years now?
Yeah.
And, I mean, there is nothing like that. And I mean, you were with with WWF, and you were a star with WWF for many years. And it's kind of like, compared to, WWF did generate a ton of money compared to a lot of sports. And
it'd be nice after a certain age of a retirement thing you're over with, which I'm not over or retired by any means. It'd be nice to have some kind of a pension or a little medical something.
Yeah.
Like for your teeth or any kind of. If you get hurt, you just pay for yourself, or once you're out of it, that's free. You get no pension or nothing or.
Has a lot of your money gone to medical bills or not that much over the years?
I just never allowed myself to get hurt, but I've had a few medical bills.
Yeah. I mean, what's those serious injuries you've had?
I really haven't had any. I've been very lucky. I just really haven't had any serious. I've been very lucky with my neck and knees and back. I'm just very lucky.
What type of, as far as training and everything like that, how do you train now as compared to other points in your life?
Well, I'm doing a lot of mountain biking right now, and I'm still benching 405. I don't think I'll ever lose that.
Mm.
And just a lot of squatting, and the mountain biking is really a key way to stay in shape for wrestling. So I'm going to bike 3 or 4 hours a day, stopping periodically to have a few beers in between.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a great way to keep your cardio up. especially in 4,000 elevation.
Oh, I bet it is. Yeah, Lennox Lewis should have done that, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, that bicycling is the key. But
yeah.
I would definitely like to make a very serious comeback with the WWF or the WCW, if that's what they're called.
That's what they're going to call them.
One more run. Definitely want to get more run.
Okay, we are totally out of time. Jim, I want to thank you very much for doing the show. This was very entertaining 2 hours.
Oh, good.
And I just want to remind everyone we'll be back tomorrow. We're going to have Shelton Benjamin of Ohio Valley Wrestling, and we'll see you all tomorrow at 5.